Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11, and 20, and good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. This morning I have joining me once again is my colleague here at the GBN, Mr. Godfrey Augustine, as we continue to recap 2020. The idea is to make this a weekly event until the end of the year, every Thursday. We will look back at some of the top happenings of the year. Good morning, Godfrey. How art thou?
I'm doing great, Blossom. Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners and viewers of course, GBN TV, Facebook, YouTube, what other area or however they choose to look at you, up, down, across, sideways,
Whatever direction, I'm grateful to have them.
Yes, indeed.
So, Godfrey, as we continue to look back at 2020, we'll start with Gregory Bowen presented a budget yesterday of $1.2 billion. Soon, but from an overall perspective, looking and listening to what he presented yesterday, what did you think about the presentation? An hour and 23 minutes, according to broadcasters.
Actually, Blossom, I was not able to look at the presentation. I have also not seen a detailed copy of the entire budget. What I have been able to put my hands on, though, was the actual allocations, and that's where my interest basically lies. A budget 1,232,670,049 that is not somewhere waiting to just go and dip your hands in and use as you like. That's money that has to be raised, through different means and avenues, so that some of the projects that government, they have in mind, they can execute. So we've seen those similar figures before, but my main concern, Blossom, has to do with the various allocations. Now, I am not an economist, so let me say upfront that I am not an authority of famous economists in Grenada. However, though, one of the first things I want to touch on is the fact that we're out of some economic difficulties as a result of COVID-19. So I think that, I hope that was at the forefront of the minds of the people who were putting all these figures together so that we can have some growth in 2021. Now, I noticed, and many people spoke on that yesterday, the largest allocation went to the Ministry of Infrastructure, $133.7 million. Fine, but my question is, in what areas? Is it going to be for the roads, whatever? And this is what I'm looking forward to hearing from the various ministers as they do their presentation in the coming days. Because you have to be careful in that a period like now, where jobs are basically scarce, although we've heard from some of the government ministers that unemployment has started dropping again. But at the same time, the jobs that are going to be created now, whether they are sustainable, because that is what will make all the difference. We cannot consider things like our debushing program, as dropping in unemployment. These things are not sustainable. We're talking 2 or 3 weeks, and after that, what happens? We are talking about jobs and make some kind of contribution to the economy. So my concern, one, with that allocation for infrastructure, also said that it's a budget of hope. I would like to know what is it exactly they are hoping for as compared to what they actually intend to do and what they actually intend to achieve. And of course, most important, how they plan to achieve it. How are they going to raise these monies to execute these projects. To sit now, I mean, after a budget presentation is done, and to say it was a good budget or a bad budget, sometimes I smile when I hear people make those comments. To determine whether a budget is a good or bad one, you would have to wait. We have to consider the government they've not added any new taxes. So $1 million for tourism, better allocation than, I mean, not a whole lot more. A lot of emphasis should be placed on our productive sectors in areas where we can generate revenue. This is what, to me, is important at this point. So the question remains, Mr. Bolson said so last evening on our special Beyond the Headlines. They're going to get grants, they're going to get concessionary loans. See, I was not able to hear the entire presentation. I don't have the document as yet. But I don't recall, from the news and what I picked up, any mention was made of debt repayment. Now, for the past couple of years, when you looked at the allocations for budget, debt repayment got the top allocation. However, this year it is not allocated.
It's not even in the top 10.
Exactly. Does that mean that the governments won't be paying any debt this year? Have they gotten some sort of moratorium on debt repayment? So it has to be paid back. And we have to be careful because already, and another thing, and mention was made to what our actual debt is. Right, so we don't know. What we've heard about recently is a loan as for refurbishment of the airport. Now that is going on to an already large debt that we have. If we are going to take additional concessionary loans, they are all adding on to the debt. Is your ability to pay? Do we have the ability now to pay back those debts? Are we certain that things are going to come back the way they were before COVID-19? Or is it going to get worse? So these are some more monies allocated for agriculture. Although I heard the member for St. Patrick West said that 18.6 is just on the surface, but there are other monies under different, because he made mention, for example, of feeder roads. Fine, but can that also, because they're not clear on a lot of things, and sometimes you wonder exactly where they are going. And when you're in doubt, when people are in doubt, it leaves room for things to happen that could be not in keeping with the normal scheme of things. And sometimes I think things would slow down and get a little better with COVID. But agriculture and other productive sectors, what about manufacturing? I mean, years now we have not paid any serious attention to manufacturing. There are a couple of manufacturers in Grenada. Now, if assistance is given in that area, we're talking about job creation. Because if where a lot of internal things can help to generate revenue. And by doing that, if people get you are producing more, it opens the door for additional employment. So people are going to get jobs. And these jobs are more sustainable than the bushing. So these are some of my concerns. Health, especially together with agriculture, these are two areas that we should look at very, very, very seriously. One, with COVID, we don't have the capacity here to deal with a serious outbreak of COVID. And so far, we have been doing very well. And I commend the people in authority. I commend the people of Grenada, some of them, because there are some that are still taking this for granted. So these are areas we have to look at. One of the key things we hear about as it relates to COVID has to do with our immune system. Now, that says to me, agriculture comes in here in a very significant way. If we can start using more nutritious food, more fruits and vegetables, we'll have a better immune system. So down the line, things can get better. So I think these are areas we need to look at. And I really hope that the government would put a lot of emphasis on the area of health. Recently, I was so embarrassed and ashamed on the bed floor and bed sheets. This is shameful. I wanted the WHO to know about that. You think we should tell them, Blossom?
They probably already know. Let's hope. They probably watch the news. They probably watch GBN News. And
to make sure, I think we should drop them a line just to make sure that they know about that, because that is very, very embarrassing. No, and there seems to be a little history with that area. Last time we heard about the storage was sipping out and coming over, into the river area. And I don't know if that problem is still going on. You understand? I hope it is not still going on, because it's not good for health. It is not good for health, So we need to pay attention to things like that. And we're hearing about the one in Lakalom. Last week we spoke about that. So health, agriculture, two key areas. Education, 124 million.
Health did get the fourth largest allocation on the list, which is about 40 million less than infrastructure. So you still think that's enough? 94.9 million?
Well, Blossom, I tell you, it's in cases like this, I don't think it's the amount. I think it's what the money will be used for. In which areas of health it will be used. Will it be used to improve health, or will it be used to what? How are we going to use it? So that's the important thing. If we're going to use the monies that would benefit us in a significant way, then 3 chairs. If not, then we need to go back to the drawing board and start relooking things. Now, for example, agriculture, the 18.6 million. If that money is, for example, I believe, Blossom, that a lot more could be done in agriculture. I believe we can get a lot more support from friendly nations. Not monies, but what about technical support? What about, machinery, to help farmers, to modernize the way we do agriculture? I believe that we can seek help out there, and I hope the new Minister of Agriculture, Peter David, I know he has connections, so I hope he can use his connections to tap into some of these resources to help improve the agricultural sector. Because we've always heard it said that we cannot continue doing things the old way. The fork and spade and shovel and so, that's not going to work. And that is not drawing anyone to agriculture. So we need to look at modernized ways of doing agriculture. And this is where I think we need to look for assistance, outside. It's not always about money, but there's other support, proper training in helping people to understand involved. We have a program on GBN on Tuesday evenings at 6, Simply Agriculture. I have Mr. Daniel Lewis coming in, and for the past 2 weeks we've been talking about the importance of soil health and all of that. Our farmers, do they understand that? You might be planting something and it's not growing, and you're not sure what is the reason. It could be an issue with the soil that can be fixed. And support like that on all of these knowledge that are there. So these are areas I think we can look at in the area of agriculture to help. Now, also, we have an issue with production. Only recently, we couldn't find no lettuce around. Well, they started coming back. Now, if we have farmers understanding that they need to produce continuously, now that is one thing. Because if you're doing that, then you must have proper storage. More attention needs to be given to the Marketing and National Importing Board, to reduce on the amount of wastage and all of that. So if we have that, we can have a year-round supply of fresh fruit and vegetables. And government at the policy level needs to start encouraging. If you do, it would help reduce the cost of living. It also plays on our health, which policymakers are understanding these things so that they can be put into effect. So we can be a better people, we can be a better nation. So these are some of the issues, I think needs to be looked at. as it relates to some aspects of the budget.
Here's something else that I've heard comments. Somebody on Talk the Things Thursday said it this morning. We had the discussion in the 7th on the list as well is the Royal Grenada Police Force with 51.6 million. So the question was, why these two?
Evening, in the news, police national security. The Minister of Finance probably need to define that and explain why. I don't know. I don't understand it. 51.6 to police. What will you be doing as it relates to police with that? Are we going to improve some of our police stations? I can tell you off the bat, St. David's police station needs a serious facelift. I always talk about it. You have plans growing out of the St. David's police station. So are they going to use some of these monies to improve the facility? It's for a specific purpose, then great. I also believe we need more police officers in Grenada. I need to see more police officers patrolling our streets to ensure that a lot of things that are happening do not happen. Police presence is very, very important. It is a deterrent to crime. It is a deterrent. So as I said, Blossom, it's very interesting to know how these monies that are allocated for the various sectors are used. This is how you're going to use that money. You know, are you going to recruit more officers? Are we going to permanent position? You know, so how are we going to use these allocations? That is my question. I would like to hear that because I'm paying very...
From tomorrow, please, a lot actually. Which brings me to the next, before we take the break, let's talk the opposition leader. After the presentation, he requested, well, he made the point that in the past, well, not the past 7 years because we haven't had a leader of the opposition, but before, the budget would be presented on the front. And he noted that because of the presentation yesterday, Wednesday, and Parliament resumes on Friday, that only gives him 1 day to peruse the document, which he felt wasn't enough time. What do you think about his request to maybe delay?
I have no problem there, but honestly, I really don't see the need. You know, I believe they're intently to the presentation yesterday. So out of that, I'm sure he was able to pick out a couple of things and identify areas that he wants to. I mean, last time, for example, I listened to Mr. Bolson on the special Beyond the Headlines, and half of his presentation was just pure politicking and trying to defend and about, you know, making, you know, little underpasses at previous administrations. That doesn't make any sense to me. A budget was presented, they are to develop our country and to help our economy to grow so that people can have better lives. That to me is what is most important. So one of the days when people took 11 hours in Parliament to make a rebuttal, we have to move away from this kind of thing. It doesn't make any sense because they go and all they do is play politics. Waste of time.
What he pointed out was that it's a big document and there are a lot of things in it that he needs to go over. Opposition leaders have had, so he wants to ensure that he's not being shortchanged.
Well, let's put it that way, Blossom. We are not living in the same times as other opposition leaders. It's different times. So we have to adjust. We have to look. How long will the leader of the opposition take to address the budget? Well, he needs 2 days to address the budget as well. I'm neither here nor there, but personally, I really don't see the need, and I don't think any of the other ministers needs to go and stand in Parliament and talk and play politics and cuss other politicians and throw words to people, because a lot of times that's what they do. And that is not necessary. We need to start getting into the serious affairs of, you know, managing our country. Let us deal with what is before us. And then you can start your politics time when we are facing economic difficulties and hardships, and we need to address these issues and come up with good and proper ways of addressing them so that people can get out of the difficulties that they are faced with right now. This is how I see it.
You said save it for when the politics start. It probably start already. The train was probably...
Well, maybe it has. Maybe that's it.
Let's take a quick break and then we're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NDC. And
That's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Wait to see my granddaughter.
This is a plastic bag. From February 1st, these bags are not to be used when shopping for food. So here's what you should do. Refuse plastic. Instead, bring your own reusable shopping bags and say goodbye to plastic. Choose to refuse plastic. Walk with your reusable shopping bags and
Godfrey Augustine. Before the break, we were speaking about the budget presentation yesterday, but now we're going to move on to the National Democratic Congress. After we had our program last week, Thursday evening, Franca Alexis Bernardine announced her resignation as the political leader of the NDC. The following day, Mr. Adrian Thomas was named as the interim political...
Well, I'll tell you, Blossom, it was my opinion that, no, it wasn't the last election, it was the previous election. It was my opinion that Mr. Nazim Burke should not have taken the leadership of the party there. I've always maintained that. There were a couple of reasons why I felt so. One, it was a time when we were seeing an emergence of women for the US presidency. Eventually she lost. Then there was the lady in England. Then there was Angela Merkel should have taken the leadership of the party then. I believe the party should have come together and decided, look, she should go, and not Mr. Burke. In a normal scheme of things, Mr. Burke had age on his side. He had age on his side. One could tell that, look, when you get to a certain age, you have to slow down. And there are some things that you just cannot continue in for very long. And I saw this, and this is where I felt, that Mrs. Burke should have been the leader then. And I believe now, with what has happened, I believe I was right. Because hadn't Mr. Burke taken the leadership, now would have been the opportune time for him to step up and lead the party. I think he would have brought, something great for the party at this time. She only lasted, about a year? So there we go. I think Mr. Burke has resigned. I don't know if he's still a member of the party.
I believe he still is, but he resigned as political leader. But is it too late for him to take it back? Or
Well, it is not too late, but we have to look at. Remember, when you're in politics, everything is about how the electorate, and if their perception is not correct, you're in problems. You are in problems. One, how will people look at the other members or the other members in leadership to lead the party? These are questions that will be asked. Or was Mr. Burkes' resignation part of a plan to make it look as if, the supporters really want him back, so he has no choice than to come back? And I'm just asking questions. I mean, there are people who have their own opinions on how this whole thing with the NDC played out. NDC has gone through some very difficult times, times has not been very good to them. And I believe a lot of it has to do with the way they operate as a party. NDC is too guarded at the top. They are too guarded. And there seem to be, because you're hearing all sorts of things now, whether they are true or not. The party has a history of disintegrating after elections. 1999, it disintegrated. They had to regroup and come again. And we've seen it happening time and time again. What really is the problem with the national weak? Or they don't have the capacity to take control and to call the shots. And no, we have not the problems that the NDC has. We have not seen it happen with the NNP, with what we call the maximum leader, the man to take charge. Now look at what happened with the PRG. You see, when you have too much bright fellas, when you have too much bright, not work. It will not work. When everybody feels, look, I brighter than he, so he cannot dictate what path I take, you have a problem. You have a problem. So he's taking up a position at a very difficult time. Already he has lost twice. And going into the leadership position as a loser is a difficult thing. It is a difficult thing. So I really don't know.
But
I don't.
Well, I guess the fact is, yes, he lost the seat twice, but the he ran was just about 2 weeks before the election or something like that, and the last 600 something votes.
But who was tipped to run, he died, and they were having issues finding a candidate, and then all of a sudden we heard Oliver Joseph, and then he won. So he came in. You see, I'll tell you, Blossom, there's a fundamental thing that people have to understand as it relates to the NNP and the NDC. Now, if we're going to go support for support with these two parties, NNP will always win because NNP has a larger support base than the NDC. So NDC needs to be able to attract a lot of undecided voters, and that's what happened in 2008. And the results of the election, if you look at the figures, the results of the election would show that. After 2013, when NDC lost all 15 seats, they were not able to win back that 8,000 votes that they lost from 2008. They have not been able to. So they need that extra votes. The party, we are a viable alternative. We can make a difference. And if people can buy into it, then
Joseph needs to rise. Is this a chance for Ms. Joseph?
That is something that the NDC handling of how the NDC operate, And you talk to people, a couple last week called election. Whether or not people think that NDC would lose all 15 seats again. And the caller said, yes. He went on to say that We need change, but not NDC. When I heard that, I stopped for a moment and I wanted to make sure, so I asked him again, but not with the NNC, and he said yes. And I can refer, because all our programs are recorded, I can refer to the recording and I can play the recording. So there is something about the electorate and the way the National Democratic Congress operates that somehow does not resonate well with people outside of their support base. And they need to be in the same position. You see, you can't be doing the same thing and expect a different result. It doesn't work that way.
So what about a young boy at the helm of the NDC? Let's say a Tevin Andrews or Ron Redhead, maybe even Karen James, a young person at the helm.
You see, Blossom, we have to understand, it's all well and good to talk about a young person. But in any now, fine, they can step up, all right? But again, the point is, to win an election in Grenada, you would need, the party winning would need to get at least, you don't have a chance. NDC is stable at around 22, 23,000. So they need an additional 7,000 votes to take them over the top. Now, where are these votes going to come from? Are they able to win over some NNP support? That is a tall order. But you have other citizens who you can convince. The question is, can you convince them? If you can, then you could win the election. If you can't, you will come second. You'll get a silver medal. That ain't bad.
That ain't bad. A medal is a medal. Not gold, but it's a medal.
That's right. That's right.
Let's get to some questions from our viewers and listeners. We have just about 10, let's say 12 minutes to do that. So let's see how we can get into it. I'll get right to the YouTube. Somebody on YouTube asks...
That's a very, very important question, Blossom, because a lot has to happen inside here. All right, how are you going to create jobs? And I made the point earlier, talking about job creation is one thing, but it can't be the bushing. It can't be the bushing. Construction, it may create some immediate economic activity, but time like this, and I am very concerned that government continues to build hotels at a time when we are not sure where tourism is going to go in the future. I'm not saying don't build, but if you're going to build, because even some of the bigger countries who have better capacity to deal with the present situation, they're not sure either. They're not sure either. And bear in mind, we have COVID now. Something else is going to pop up. That's the way things are happening. So I believe our sustainable employment, so that a lot of internal trade can help boost our economy.
Good.
Very young Godfrey. Because yesterday I just didn't want to listen to that budget. It couldn't hold me to the radio, so I took it off and I got that discussion, and I'm very impressed with Godfrey. What I want to say, though, concerning the NNP and the NDC, I just want to make maybe one or two statements. One, as long as that, no other party going to rise up. No matter how strong they come, they have to go down. You don't worry about that. And secondly, this government, what is happening now? Grenada is not running on an agenda for the people. It's an agenda for the deep state. It's an agenda for the elite, because in the global setting. And so Grenada is under that. It's not under, to develop people. We're looking for what Godfrey described but that is not the agenda of that government. The government is the deep state and the elite agenda. And that's what we have to realize. So that's why I always say, Grenadians, we need to go on our knees and we need to pray and seek the face of God for intervention. Thank you, and God bless you and Godfrey.
Thank you very much for your blessing.
Thank you, God. Well, Blossom, I don't agree that has defeated the NNP before in 2008. In 1990, they did not win the election, but they formed a government. They were able to get 7 seats. So it is not impossible. What has to happen is that the NDC or any other political party that intends to contest the election, you need to understand the Grenadian electorate and how they think. If you cannot convince the Grenadian people that you can make a difference, I think NDC needs to seriously look at it. And I'm mentioning NDC because they command the second largest number of support in Grenada. I believe that they do have the ability. There are people who are capable. The people in the NDC are intelligent people. But you need to understand, it's not just being very educated, but you need to understand the mindset of the Grenadian electorate. People will tell you one thing, but when it comes to an election, when they think it over seriously, and if they feel that, look, man, watch, I'm not happy with NNP, That's what I think NDC needs to understand. NDC needs to present the Grenadian people with how. Let me tell you, in any election, there is one fundamental thing that you must learn how to do. You got to learn to win. If you don't know how to win, you are going to lose. And that's the bottom line. And I believe NDC do not know how to win. You need to understand, you cannot be, let me tell you, how much years now we hear political parties campaigning on keep Michelle corrupt and NNP's a corrupt government. They've done it all. You need to find, look, if you have something that's working, fine, you have to come up with a different and better plan. Or else you would remain in the same position. So it's a matter of deal to give them that confidence that, yes, I believe that I can now give the...
Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Go ahead.
A little humble opinion, right? You have a small country of a population of maybe just over 100,000. And my little humble political parties, right, from since the revolution, right, has really put, what we need to do is to put we have limited human resource, yes, but what we have to do as a small developing country, right, is to put our limited human resource to maximum use. And in my little humble opinion, I don't see no political party really going that direction. So I don't see no kind of seriousness is been done through all the years with no political party. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Godfrey?
I'm not sure I understood what he was talking about. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could explain, to be honest. From YouTube, the phones, Facebook. Let me ask a Facebook question. Somebody on Facebook says governments spend more money on local farm products.
Okay, so I hear what the caller said, but can the caller tell us exactly where and who these monies are spent on and where the equipment that they've spent on, where are they? And who is benefiting from it? Who's getting it? Unless farmers are keeping secrets and they're not saying anything. But clearly, I hear farmers complaining. Up to the last in the news, I heard farmers saying that, look, if they hang out for help, and not just monetary help, but they need support. I mean, you have all of them teeth and them distressing farmers, and something needs to be done. Something needs to be done, and that's why I believe we need to up the numbers in our police service. We need more patrol. Too much thief. They had to stop that blossom.
This one, and the final question that I asked is somebody on two people on WhatsApp basically saying this is probably the time, looking over the reins of the NDC, the possibility of turning TGM from an organization, an NGO, to a political party and contesting the election. Do you think Dr. Antoine and the TGM can give the phrase, give the NNP a run for their money in the next election?
Long time ago. As a matter of fact, when he was a year 2 student in IFE, he taught me economics as a year 1. Very intelligent, very articulate. I think he knows what he's about. There are a number of individuals in that TGM that, let me put it in a nice way, they've lost their relevance. So Dr. Antoine needs to relook that. If he wants to make a difference with the TGM, he has to get rid of some irrelevance within that organization. And if he doesn't do that, he is going to be faced with a similar problem that the NDC is facing. Because believe you me, yes, Dr. Antoine can stand and you know, have an excellent exchange with the Prime Minister. And this is significant, Blossom. Leadership is significant. Let's say, for example, say you have Dr. Mitchell as leader of the NNP, Dr. Antoine as leader of the TGM, Mr. Adrian Thomas as leader of the NDC. I mean, let's parallel this. Let's look at it. People looking at a debate between these 3 individuals, how do you think they're going to any serious disadvantage anywhere in there? You don't have to answer, but I'm saying this to say that leadership, he can definitely do a good job, but he has to rid his organization of some irrelevance. And I have no apology saying that.
And this is where we're going to end this morning's recap. Thank you so much, Godfrey. Same time, same place next Thursday, God willing, if there's no budget, that is. We'll keep an eye on the budget presentation, but of course we'll come back and look at more happenings of 2020. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of
Thank you very much, Blossom. I just before you go, don't cut me. I need a little advertisement. Folks to join us a little later on this evening. We have a very special program. I think today is the World Day for people with disabilities. Yes, so we have a special program this evening at 8 is Lost in Sight. And we also have a doctor that will be with us to discuss this issue. And we would like to hear a lot from, people who have disabilities, but they contribute significantly. So we'd like to hear some of the things that they face and talk about it and give some awareness to people with disability, because too many times people with disability are believed to be disabled, and I don't agree with that. I think there's a difference between being disabled and having a disability. I believe that. So join us at 8 o'clock for that program. And of course, tomorrow, Honesta Jose, we have a great one for We Culture. We are looking at some of our unsung heroes. Blossom is my unsung hero. All right. And I'm going to tell the people why tomorrow evening. So join us tomorrow for We Culture 8, Unsung Heroes, and this evening at 8 for our program on people with disabilities. Thank you, Blossom.
No
Have
problem.
a good one.
Thank you, Godfrey. Thank you very much. That was my co-host colleague here at GBN, Godfrey Augustine, looking back at 2020. Today we dealt with the budget and the NDC. Next week, some more topics once there's no budget debate or discussions next Thursday. That's the end of my time. I've already robbed some of the Christmas caravan. Janelle is already in the studio. Joseph, I believe, is out on the streets. Have yourselves a productive, thankful Thursday, and I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Bye-bye.